Hello and welcome back to the Gerry Leeds United show. I've got JK and Ginny back for another episode. We're going to have a wee final talk on the Everton game and then look ahead to the Leicester, or not Leicester, Crystal Palace game. I'm thinking because Leicester and Crystal Palace were the two that give us the hammerings the last time, and then we're hoping for revenge. But no, so yes, as I say, I'm going to go to Jenny first because me and JK covered up we gave our initial thoughts on the Everton defeat during the week. So we'll get Jenny's thoughts on that. So a few days on, what do you make of it, Jenny?
I think, like all of us, it was disappointing that we didn't take a point from the game. I thought we played really well, particularly the second half. But once again, that Achilles heel, isn't it? We're giving away soft goals. But the bigger picture, the fact we're all pretty disappointed we didn't get something against Everton, who, let's be right, their ambitions are top four, Europa League. I think just shows how far we've come as a club in the last couple of seasons. And yeah, we gave the two sloppy goals, but I just thought we played excellent. And another day, typical, isn't it? Their keeper comes in for Pickford and has an absolute worldie. And I think it shows as well. I watched their game last night and, United, let's be right, hate to say it, but they're up there challenging and, Everton pegged them back from 2 goals down and came away with the draw. So now, all in all, as I've said all season, if we go out, compete like we do, and there's not been many games where you've come away and thought, yeah, we didn't really play that day, maybe Leicester at home, Tottenham away, probably Palace to a degree, but I'm sure John will go on to that a little bit later. And United, in fairness. But no, all in all, I was proud of the guys, and just disappointed we just couldn't take a point from the game. But we move on, and
You're still there.
The game's gone.
You're still there. We can still see. We can still hear you.
Still see and hear you, Ginny.
Jenny's having. I don't know what Jenny's doing. Jenny's having. Maybe too many beers today. There watching the match or his dinner. We can still see him anyway. But we'll go on. We'll move on anyway to yourself, John. Have you anything else then you want to add from the game the other day?
No, as I say, it's just this frustration of conceding bloody silly goals, isn't it?
Well, what happened to you there, Jenny? Did you disappear and think you were away? We could see you the whole time.
You just I was there talking to myself, and you thought, I'm bored of this already. Let's just go and have our own conversation.
No, we could see you.
We could see and hear you fine. So the glasses going on, looking very serious.
Yes.
It's serious when the glasses go on.
Yes. Even more intelligent than I thought you really were. My goodness.
Nah, it doesn't. It might look good, John, but I tell you what, it doesn't really pay off. Once you get to know me, you'll realise that. So now, all in all, I thought it was a great second half performance. We deserved a point, and we move on. And let's hope tomorrow night we can take away 3 points from the mighty Crystal Palace.
Mm-hmm. I know in the build up to the Everton game, I says that the goalkeeper that was coming in, Olsen, was a bit of a tube. And I like to think that maybe Man United's third goal last night maybe done me a wee bit of justice on him. What did you catch the game yourself, JK?
Just the highlights. Was keeping an eye on the score. But yeah, I did see that third goal, and actually, funny what you'd said come into my head. He did make a couple of, as Jenny has said there, a couple of fantastic saves at Ellen Road, and then somebody does that. But look at Alisson today. World class keeper. Obviously, Liverpool brought him in for a lot of money, and he's made a couple of. Well, you mentioned the Foden goal. You thought he could have done better, and definitely with the two prior to that. So every keeper, and it's always highlighted that bit more when it's a keeper. We know all too well with Kiko over the last number of seasons how much it is highlighted. And how much that leads to frustration from a fan base when somebody makes errors. So you'd asked about have anything more really to say. Not an awful lot. Just I suppose last night's result, as I mentioned in the wee sort of group we have, I think that sort of indicated our result almost, in that they are a good team, they're a good side, they have a superb manager. He's one of the best. And I think Everton are very lucky to have him. I'm sure a lot of Everton fans probably feel that way too. They couldn't believe he was linked with them, and then all of a sudden he was their manager. And I think he wanted to sort of hit the reset button himself a bit. Was a bit frustrated with some of his, how he'd been treated elsewhere. But to get back to the game, I think just overall, to back up what Ginny was saying, superb second half performance, to the point now that, to mention Liverpool, obviously you've seen the link with Mr. Rafinha. Has been linked now with Liverpool. They're apparently interested in the summer of testing our metal, if we're prepared to sell or not. That's in the newspaper today. And that'll be interesting to see. Well, I've mentioned it on social media. I've said it'll be interesting to see if any of the big boys, and I wasn't thinking actually more within the Premier League. I was thinking further afield, and one or two have come back, not necessarily to me, but I've seen other people writing it since, and some people have said, why would that even happen? He's only here, but at the end of the day, he's done very well, and that alerts people and teams to that sort of style and quality. So it'll be interesting to see what pans out in the summer, if that's the right. I don't even know when the transfer window is going to be, and in the summer, I don't think any of us do yet. It's supposed to be around the same as it always is, but it might have to change slightly, But all in all, as Jenny has said, there's a few games you feel a bit sort of frustrated by. I think Wolves, Jenny, I don't think you meant the Wolves game for me.
Yeah,
was
very
the
true.
first.
Yeah.
Was the first game that I was, shall we say, frustrated by, in that not the lack of effort, but just the fact that we couldn't get anywhere. And then there was that challenge by Jimenez on Cock that went unpunished as well that night. That was the first game I felt really, this is going to be, there's going to be a few of these games this season. It's going to be difficult at times just to break teams down, and they've a lot more guile. They know what they're doing. They're established Premier League teams. But I agree with the other games that you've mentioned there. But particularly the Palace one, I think that's one of the ones that vexes a lot of people, which I'm sure we'll move on to shortly.
I don't want to talk too much about the obviously Man United and Everton game, but one thing I would actually point to about that game, because obviously Everton's fresh in our memories because of what happened on Wednesday, but from watching that game, I felt that they maybe gave Manchester United a wee bit too much respect in comparison to the way they played against us. They went and they really went for the game against us, and even the changes in the teams, they brought in an extra midfielder, wee man Tom Davis, and they were very sort of negative. Went 2-0 down, turned it on for 5 or 10 minutes, got 2 goals, then went back to negativity and looked like they were going to lose until they had to throw everything at the end and got the draw. So it's interesting to see how good, as you say, JK, Ancelotti, and even James Rodriguez. If you'd have said to an Everton fan a couple of years ago, whenever you're sitting and you're going from obviously Koeman's a big name, from more so from his playing days, but they're kind of bringing in managers like Sam Allardyce, Silva from Watford, Koeman from Southampton, and then you go out and you get a Carlo Ancelotti who must be about 3 European Cups he's won. I think he won maybe 2 with Milan and 1 with Real Madrid. So it's a big manager to have for them, and I think they could have done more last night. And I do think, as I said, for me to summarise the game against Everton, was we came up against a good team that played well, and we were unlucky not to get something. So I think there's technically there's no positives in defeat, but I think that Bielsa and Leeds and us as fans, there's a lot that we could take out of that game, which you could look at positively. On the Rafinha link with Liverpool, did you see a number? Was there a price, JK?
Well, that's the thing. I just saw it as a passing headline, and I just saw the sort of laughing emojis, some people underneath from our fan base, because the link was 15 million, which obviously is less than we paid, plus, but it was add-ons after that, so it's going to be an initial 15 million and then whatever after that. So I didn't see the total in the end, no, but it's not surprising that you will get, I'll say it, that you'll get a player of that quality linked with other clubs who, in fairness, Liverpool they're not only a bit ahead of us, they're well ahead of us in terms of status currently. So links like that will happen. Again, let's see what happens in the next number of months.
I think. What would your thoughts on that be, Ginny? Would you think that? Like, I think it's quite interesting because it's probably the first time where not only the player, so we're kind of all feeling a bit confident and a bit of a swagger, now that we're back in the Premier League. So if somebody like the bigger boy comes along and tries to steal your girl, so to speak. But what would you say, Jenny, if you thought that Liverpool were interested in him? Like, where do you think Leeds would stand on it? Like, do you think Radrizzani, like, this is kind of like the first test for him to see like how much he would dig his heels in? Like, what do you think would be the outcome of that?
I like to think we'll want to keep him, but then Radrizzani's been quite open in the last couple of weeks. Excuse me. He wants to kind of build us a bit like the Leicester team. And Leicester have been prepared to let Maguire went, Mahrez went to City. And what they try and do is bring in like a Rafinha, buy him for 17 million and probably flog him for double that. But they've got another player ready to come in and take over that role. I think it'd be a real shame for us to start losing some of our top players after our first season in the Premier League. And I hope we are going to stay up, there's no need to have to sell him. But as we know, it's not always the club, is it? It's the players. And if Rafinha was to turn around or be an awkward bugger and think, no, I want to move on to a Liverpool or a top four club, it is very difficult to keep a player, particularly if he's not going to be happy. But Bielsa stays. You can see what the club are trying to do, what they're trying to build, and hopefully, he'll give it at least another couple of seasons. Because personally, I think him and Rodrigo will be a lot better even next season for another year under Bielsa. Rafinha's, don't get me wrong, last few weeks he's been superb and since he started, but there have been games where he's drifted away or he's looked a bit tired in the second half of games. He's still got a lot to learn in the Premier League, but as you say, when players are starting to turn it on, then they do attract other clubs' interest. Same with Calvin. I'm sure at some point Calvin's going to again raise some interest with some of the bigger clubs. But I suppose it could be a feeder club for Real Madrid rather than Norwich in the future, couldn't we? That's not a bad thing. That's another step up. But no, in all seriousness, I just hope we can keep the likes of Rafinha for a bit longer. And I think as people have put on social media, we want to see these guys live, don't we? And it's probably not going to be now until next season, so we get that opportunity. But I think it again just shows how far we've come, that a team like Liverpool and probably one or two others are looking at a player like Rafinha rather than Luke Vardy or those sort of players that were outstanding in their time.
Paul Green.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to him, JK?
I think he's still playing. I'm not sure where. Maybe I think he's League One or League Two somewhere. I'm not too sure exactly where. I did check there in the not so distant past. Was it MK Dons, something like that, maybe a graveyard where people go. Just ask Richard Q. So I don't know. I think he still is playing remarkably.
Wow, bloody hell!
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Gerry?
I do think it's interesting. I think if the player, I always kind of thought that, like, whenever we got up to this, it was something that I thought in my head, like, whenever teams are going to start coming in and looking at our players, like, what's going to happen. I always had it in my head that it was going to be Phillips, was going to be the one that people were going to be the most interested in. And I always kind of had that thing where, like, it's going to be like we kind of need to match their ambitions. Where, like, he's a Leeds lad, he supports the club. Rafinha's completely different. Like, Rafinha's probably got, like, in his head, like a lot of these Brazilians have, like, a career map. What's the route I can take to get to the highest level, and And if Liverpool come in for him, and the money's right, I wouldn't be surprised if he did go. But I would be looking, like, Liverpool seem to be they seem to try to be doing sort of quite stingy deals, like, like they seem to be looking for real value, and if it's value they're after, no, it's like put the knots on, and we'll see, we'll talk about it. Rafinha himself, actually, it's a sort of like an interesting link to come into it then, to the Palace game. Like, whenever we last played them, and obviously we lost 4-1, and I'm going to just rip VAR to shreds in a minute. But in that particular game, Rafinha come on as a sub. So like he only signed for us kind of right at the end of the window, and come off the bench a few times, and he's making his mark, and he's already got to the stage where supposedly Liverpool are looking at him, so it shows you what kind of a player he is. But it takes us nicely into the Palace game then, so we're playing them tomorrow night. I was looking at it, they have a lot of injuries. They've got like 10 players supposedly out. The big one's Zaha, but of the list of players that they have out, only 2 of them played against us the last time, which is Zaha and James McArthur, who may be fit again for this game, so I'm not sure what way that'll be. I think Zaha being out is a big plus for Leeds. The player that I'm worried about and has caused us all kind of problems in the past is Eze. Yeah, but I think he's a talent, and I would like to think we would deal with him. The other thing that worries me is Crystal Palace play 4-4-2. Bielsa plays 3 at the back, and I hate watching Leeds with 3 at the back. I really don't like it. I really think it's imbalanced. What's your thoughts yourself, JK?
Well, I'll pick up on your point there, Gerry. That's 4-4-2 equals problems for us, I think. But counterbalance by that, your comment on Zaha, I think is important. I was looking at some of the BBC Sport statistics today for both teams, and Zaha, when he's out as an injured in his career at Crystal Palace, they've only won out of 18 games. They've won 2, lost 16. So that shows you, how influential he is. We've, suppose, to start the alarm bells here. We've played twice. I think we've mentioned both games. Was it Wolves and Leicester? We've played on Monday Night Football live twice and lost twice. So again, hopefully maybe we can break that. But Palace's away form up until the Newcastle game was poor. They're not great on the road. So I would like to think that we could impose our game on them, try and get an early goal. That means they have to come out and play, and what happens when teams come out and play against us. So I think that has to be the aim. I know that sounds very simplistic, and why would every team not do that? But that's what we tend to do, is to try and get that really, really early goal. Whilst again, some teams are quite happy to consolidate, get through the first, whatever it may be. We don't. We tend to try and we're on the front foot straight away, and expect that tomorrow night. And hopefully, as I say, an early strike, and they have to come out and play, and as a result, then will leave gaps. So that's my initial thoughts anyway.
What do you think yourself, Ginny?
3-1. I fancy us tomorrow, I really do. And I think also when we played down there, we didn't have Phillips, did we? Which makes a massive difference. And depending which way Bielsa goes, that Zezed, what they call him, he looks a good player from QPR. But again, depending on our formation, how he sets up, you'd expect Phillips to maybe be the man to guard him through the 90 minutes. So yeah, they have got a few injuries. They're a well-organised, well-drilled team, as JK says. But I just feel, these are the games again where you're looking to take some points, or at least a point tomorrow wouldn't be the end of the world. But I think we can continue from the second half, how we performed against Everton. Again, it is always that early goal with Leeds, isn't it? Or the first goal. I think we'll be okay tomorrow night, and I think we can. I'm pretty confident, without getting overconfident, we can take 3 points and move on to the next game.
So I have to do it. I don't want to do it, but I have to do it. Can anybody remember the game down there? Like it was like I was watching the highlights, and like obviously the one that sticks out with me is the Bamford, the offside, which was absolutely mental. So his arm was offside. How I don't know. I tell you what, see that bit that was playing him onside. I hope he scores with that bit tomorrow night, and we'll see what the referee does, because I guarantee you, not give it. But
Do you know who the referee is for tomorrow night?
I don't know. I never even looked. I never looked at all.
Adrian, what's his name? JK. Adrian, I forget his surname.
Is that the Australian guy? No. Oh,
no. Adrian Mane or something they call him.
Oh, right. Oh, yes. Aye. Okay. Yeah. Well,
you'll know as soon as you see him tomorrow night.
Yeah.
He's refereed some games for us this season.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Is it Andre Marner?
That's the one. That's it.
Yeah.
You say it so much nicer than I do.
Yeah, I did well from what you give me now.
You did really very well. Yeah, you might not be saying that tomorrow night if he gets a few decisions wrong.
Exactly. I'll go back to whatever you said originally if he referees poorly. No, he's to be fair, I think he's one of the better ones. We mentioned I think it was just Gerry and I on Monday evening. I said, you heard what I said about refs. I'm not overly impressed by them, but if you were going to in pecking order, probably himself and Michael Oliver probably would be up near the top, and then you progressively go downhill after that with Mr. Dean and Lee Mason and various others. But no, I think overall, he usually a few times, very few times, I sit and going, what? When you do with other referees, you're thinking, not him again, and why have they? You've mentioned VAR there, Gerry. It was poor that day, and it really hasn't improved at all in any shape or form. In fact, if anything, it's probably got worse, because I think VAR used to be criticised because there were decisions were changed by the week, but now they're actually being checked again by someone at Stockley Park, and yet nearly every other person that you would stop in the street in a family fortune style and say, do you think that's a red card? Do you think that's a penalty? Do you think whatever it may be? 99% of people say no, but yet Stockley Park always seem to say yes for every single, whether it's disallowing a goal, allowing a goal, whatever it may be. So let's hope again there's none of that tomorrow night, because just whenever something does, VAR's checking that it nearly puts the shackles up. The amount of times you hear that sentence in 90 minutes, and you're thinking, what's there to check? I didn't say anything wrong, and no, everything's fine. So let's hope. If there's going to be, I don't want to win games controversially, and I know we will at times, but I would like to win just based on the fact we're the better team on the night or during the game, whenever that may be. That's what I prefer, because people will remember. People will say, "Oh, but remember, Sheffield United still talked about this season about the Aston Villa result against Sheffield United. It's still mentioned, despite the fact Aston Villa are doing quite well this year. It's still mentioned. Oh, they're only up because of a VAR decision that went wrong. So people have long memories when it comes to these decisions. So, but I don't think we've benefited that much from VAR this season from memory. Maybe the odd one or two, but nothing major. We've definitely been on the wrong side, in my opinion, a couple of times, but don't think so much on the right side.
I think the Bamford one anyway, probably the less said about that the better. But he did in that game. He actually scored. He did score a really good goal. I was watching the highlights earlier, and took it in the chest and volley, and it was a good goal. And your guy he scored the good free kick. Do you remember as well the Hilder Costa OG? I completely forgot about that until I seen it.
Yes.
I was like, you could honestly do that 100 times and it would never go in. So you're kind of looking at it and thinking, obviously there was I think the first goal was our set piece, Frailties again. Was Scott? I think it was Scott Dan maybe scored it. But I remember watching the game. I think it was it 3:00 on a Saturday? I think it was.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
I remember watching it, and just like it was kind of one of them games where it just felt like anything that could go wrong did go wrong, and it was it was unfortunate. But definitely think we owe them one. Definitely think we owe them one after I'm still flabbergasted by the Bamford offside. I'll never understand that. I don't understand football rules half the time now, and it's it's unfortunate. So you think 3-1, Ginny, and what about you, JK? What's your prediction for the game?
Don't think we tend to do. There was a period there they were referring to Melee's clean sheets, and we haven't done one for a while, or well, maybe we have, but it's not been mentioned as much as it was in commentary previously. I don't know, 2-1, 3-2. The odd goal, maybe, I think. Which could be 1-0 as well, of course.
I would go 1-0. I'd be delighted with 1-0. So what
the problem for us though is if we went, and I say problem, that's all right if we win. We went 1-0 up, say after 2 minutes. Let's just be hypothetically here. Our hearts are in our mouths for 88. That's the thing. Because of the way we play and because of some of the pass backs and some of the things that go on, we would be on eggshells, as you would say, Gerry, for the remainder of the game, panicking, going, get that second goal. And if it just didn't come, you would be, even at 90 plus whatever, you'd still be thinking, they probably get one here, so I don't know.
I've seen myself like that at 2 or 3-0 up, like watching Leeds this season sometimes. Even the game we beat Newcastle 5-3, I just wasn't ready, until it was over. And even we were 4-0 up at West Brom at half times at 3 or 4-0, and I was still thinking, just take it easy, just get through this. You just never know.
In fairness, on the flip side, even when it gets to 90 and we could be losing 2 or 3-1, I still think if we get a point today, I'd be happy. 3, I'd definitely be happy, and that's at 90. And we've only got 5 minutes, but you still think they would be capable of maybe doing something. So it can work the other way too.
Ginny, what if you were sort of tasked with picking the lineup? Not necessarily what you would do, but what do you think Bielsa will do? Do you think there'll be any changes, or do you think we're pretty much on the same thing?
I think he'll stick with the same team, Gerry, that started against Everton, to be honest with you, unless there's any late injuries that he's not made us aware of on Friday. I think he'll start with the same 11, which you can't argue against that. I think it probably makes sense. As I say, they did okay. It's quite interesting, isn't it? You see some games where he's quite quick to change things even before half time or at half time, but he obviously believed that the 11 that were out there against Everton were capable of turning it around, and they nearly did. So yeah, it'll be the same 11. I can't really see any changes at all, to be honest with you. Just coming back to your point on VAR, it still amazes me that we're all talking about it, from fans, managers, coaches, TV pundits. And it's time we all started to do something and really fight back and try and get something done, because it's horrible. It's killing football. I mean, I dread to think what it'd be like if the stadiums were full, some of these decisions. Football is our passion. It might work with cricket. It might work with rugby. But how much longer do we have to put up with this week in, week out? And not just really, I'm talking about the whole of the Premier League and probably clubs around Europe and the world. When are we going to do something and make it known? We ain't happy with FIFA or, UEFA. David Ellery, who refereed years and years ago, he's on that committee with Mike Riley making decisions. How can that be right in a game that has changed so much in the last 20 years? But I just don't know. I mean, a friend and I were talking about it, and we were joking, if we've got 100,000 people signed up, can we get it through into Parliament to review it? But we can't, it's killing it, isn't it? The fact we're not there, we're probably not able to put our thoughts across. But when we do get back into the stadiums, if this doesn't change, it's awful. It's killing a sport we absolutely love, and we want referees are human. But even when they're going to the monitors, I mean, how did Mike Dean last night send that guy off? It's just not right. And I think the goal, Southampton had a goal chalked off the other week, Danny Ings, and that was very similar to the Bamford one. What are these guys looking at Stockley Park? It's just ludicrous. And I'm very passionate, like JK and you guys are, and I think millions of us feel the same. But what can we do to try and get the people that are making these decisions to seriously think about a rethink? I'm not saying get rid of it, but there's got to be things that have got to change going forward, because it just drives me absolutely crackers. Even when I'm watching a game that I don't support either team, you're just thinking, gosh, come on. That's just, it's horrendous, because we're all football fans at the end of the day. We have our clubs and we love it. We love the passion. We're all in the same boat. And sorry for going on, but I know JK would have a rant earlier on, but I do. At what point do we all say enough is enough?
I don't think you are, John. I think you make a series of very good, sort of one overarching point, but overall, you could break that down into several bullet points. What I would say is everybody, the ironic thing about VAR is that everybody was crying out for a VAR or a VAR type process for years and years. If only there was technology, if only there was this. But I think VAR, the difficulty is that if they brought it in a slower way, so for example, the goal line technology that I referred to earlier on that didn't work has only not worked once. Pretty much every other time it's supposed to have worked, it has worked. So if they brought it in, drip fed it in a bit more, I think they wanted to have everything in, as you said, a difficult time when there are no fans, because you're quite right. You dread to think, look at some of the things that have happened over the years with fans in, refereeing decisions, or a decision that I found. You remember the guy coming on and smacking Grealish? There was things like that happening when there were fans in the ground. So you think about it now, if something, pick any VAR decision you want that's led to controversy, and nearly every one of them does, that people can't understand. Yes, you're right. You would have either a situation where a fan runs on the pitch, or several fans to maybe delay the game or stop the game, or an vain attempt maybe to do so. So you dread to think, but everybody was crying out for it, saying we need something to change for on the flip side. But now what you see is a very convoluted, complicated system from what I can see that changes. You said, what are they looking at? I think that answer changes every single time they actually look at something, because they show the line sometimes, don't they, of where they got the decision. But they're completely different lines from everybody else looking at. So, the Bamford one is an example from the Palace game. That was one where they showed, I think, how they came to that decision. I think you've mentioned there rugby and cricket. Whilst I don't watch either sport that much, rugby a bit, you hear what's been said from the equivalent of Stockley Park. It's it's well communicated. You can hear what's been said, and you can almost predict what's going to be. They slow it down. Sometimes is it a try? Is it not a try? You can hear the conversation that's been had, and I think that's fantastic, because it just helps the situation. And already the players seem to know almost what the decision is going to be, for good or for bad. But I listened to there was a VAR special done by The Guardian. I would listen to The Guardian football podcast, and they had a guy on who's at the helm of this. And he said, basically, you'd said about don't get rid of it. Well, it's not going anywhere. It's staying, because they've invested a lot of money in it, therefore, and personnel, etc. So it's staying, whether we like it or not. But I think they need to. It's unlikely anything's going to be done mid-season, but I think if there's going to be any sort of a break in football this year, I think they need to take stock then and do what they can to improve things. Because if they don't, then, as you say, Jenny, when fans get back on the grounds, goodness only knows what that could lead to.
Even watching at home, like that Bamford one, guys, you're jumping up and down, and then you're like, oh, hang on a minute, is it going to be given? That's what it's all about, isn't it? A last minute winner, or like the Marnie goal, I think in the derby, Liverpool-Everton. It was millimetres. 3-2 against one of your rivals, and you're jumping up and down if you've been in the ground. The next minute, sorry, it's cancelled out.
I think that's a
new decision.
Yeah, like that obviously did happen pre-VAR with an offside that was missed. an offside flag. I mean, where everybody's missed it due to the passion of the situation. A goal scored, nobody's looking towards that other side where there's somebody with a flag up. So it has happened, but few and far between. But that's somebody said VAR. The difficulty with VAR is that people are looking now to see, has a linesman got a flag up? Is there something else? So people aren't celebrating. I know that they're encouraging people not to celebrate anyway due to COVID. But somebody ironically did a picture of social media today of rugby and said no celebrating. But you've got 2 scrums today, or you've got 30 players all in a scrum. So they're as close as you're going to get, in terms of a contact sport. But you're right when you say people, to have that withdrawn. That is the main thing in terms of football. It's to be able to celebrate with your respective teams, 11 players on the pitch when they score a goal, and that's dwindling away, and it's the lifeblood of football. And if that goes, there already a lot of people saying that football is a business now as opposed to a sport. And VAR is ultimately going to, that's going to lead to that further, where it's economics as opposed to sport.
So who can change it, JK? If people put enough pressure on, who are the actual bodies that could say we need to have a look at this and we need to really think seriously about
who you mentioned there? FIFA and UEFA, and then you've got obviously a contingency then at Stockley Park as well, who would in effect have to go to the higher bodies and say this isn't working. Like if you remember the handball situation this season that obviously had to be reviewed after a couple of months, that was in place in Europe for at least 1 season, if not 2. And you were seeing those frequently in games and thinking, you didn't think anything of it because it happened that often. It's only whenever it happens closer to home that people took any notice of it and thought this could come in here. And UEFA and FIFA did. They just brought it in and said you have to follow suit with the rest of Europe and further afield. There are handballs being given in those respective leagues. They're not in yours, and you can't be different. So power wise, the FA actually don't have any. They will be dictated to by others.
And is it? I mean, Gerry, I know you watch a bit of European football. Is the feeling the same within Europe? The decisions, the way it's handled, or do you sense sometimes they handle it better than what we're doing over here?
It's interesting you say, because I was going to mention a tweet that I seen the other day, and somebody basically says like nobody was complaining during the World Cup, 2018 World Cup. Nobody was complaining about VAR. La Liga, Serie A. There's been a couple of incidents, but it's nowhere near the constant, stream of stuff that we seem to get here. Now, I wouldn't like I watch a lot of Serie A and I watch a lot of La Liga, but obviously I'm not reading their media as such, because obviously the language barrier. So I'm not maybe I'm missing out, and it is as big a deal there. But like from watching games, there's the incidents. It seems to be handled. It does seem to be handled better. I personally think there should be a rule where Stockley Park have got 10 seconds or 15 seconds, and if they can look at a decision and say that's wrong within that length of time, then fair enough. But whenever you're doing this nonsense where you're putting a line underneath somebody's armpit to try and figure out whether they're, it is nonsense. And it is not right.
You will hear commentators, whether it be pundits on TV or on the radio, and they're quite right in what they say. Yes, there will be the odd time there will be something that needs to be reviewed and reviewed properly, whatever it may be. But the majority of decisions, you can say, so a layperson watching it has a view, might be right, might be wrong. But if you're in about 5 minutes and you still haven't, and let's not joke about this. This has happened on occasion where it's taken that length of time. If you're taking that long to make a decision about anything, no matter what it is, then obviously there's something wrong. If you can't make that decision, like I would have thought, maybe to sort of slightly expand what you're saying, Gerry, I think maybe there should be a cap in terms of the time. So Stockley Park have 15 seconds. I think maybe might be a bit knee-jerk. There will be times when you would need a bit longer, but I think they should have maybe, or even have it. I know we're getting into very mechanics of it, but maybe for certain decisions, an offside is quicker than a red card, is quicker than, there'll be times when you can't expect somebody on a split second to give you that answer. But at the same time, I think there should be an overall cap. And if they haven't made a decision by that time, then it's scrub, whatever it is. And look, you're right in what you say, Jenny. What can be done? I think it's whenever somebody's hit in the pocket, whether it be a manager, his team, players, supporters, whatever, once that happens, then I think you could see some sort of revolt, whatever, if that's the right term. But until then, things will just keep going as they are. To get back to Gerry, what you were saying there about European football, I this sounds like all I ever do is listen to podcasts, and in fairness, I do listen an awful lot. I would listen to a couple of ones about European leagues. The Guardian do a good one, or they certainly cover the European leagues in at least once or twice a week. And 5 Live do a European special every week, and they talk about VAR, but they only talk about VAR in terms of the Premier League. They don't talk about VAR elsewhere, because it's just the problems that are being experienced here are not happening elsewhere. There might be the odd thing, but it's odd. It just doesn't happen with the same volume that's happening here for whatever reason. I don't know whether VAR has been that or something similar has been in longer in Europe, and they're just more used to it and have better systems or whatever it is. But there certainly isn't this. They don't seem to mention, this decision, that decision elsewhere. It just doesn't seem to be an issue elsewhere.
Just doesn't seem to be getting better into the second season of it, isn't it? That's the frustrating thing. We all accepted, even we obviously worked in the Premier League last year, these things take time to iron out. It just feels into the second season, there's even more controversy this season than last season. And you'd like to think, we'd learn from things and we can improve it. Because anybody who cares and loves the football, doesn't want, like you say, to be 2-3 minutes for a decision, taking away that passion. It's just wrong. A guy in Stockley Park can make that call sometimes. I know they're using the monitors a little bit more than last season, but it's just so frustrating.
Yeah. See, with regard to the monitors, you say about the monitors, have you ever seen a referee go under the monitor in the Premier League and not change the decision, or not be it always seems to me like it's like VAR's looking at something and it's either they've noticed something and they're going to make a big sort of semi-controversial call, and then they get the referee to go over it. It's never a case of the referee comes over, has a look, and stands by what he originally thought. Every time it feels like it's once he goes that length, it's definitely getting changed.
Yeah, correct.
I think there was one this season that I can think of, and I can't think of the referee that actually did overrule a decision based on
I think there was either a red card that became a yellow card or vice versa. There was one definitely. Like that, there was a decision, but you're right what you say, Gerry, and Jenny as well. 9 times out of 10, if not higher, 99% of the time, when a referee's heading over, I would listen to a lot of football commentary as well, because you can't watch every single game, and they will say, "Oh, the referee's going to," and they'll already say, obviously, it's going to be a red card, it's going to be a penalty. They tell you what it's going to be, because they've seen the incident already themselves live, so they're able to tell you this is what's going to happen. And again, invariably they're right, because the referee doesn't go to the monitor just for the sake of it, or he has been told to go and review something that's been missed, or they've missed the official themselves, or somebody should have picked up on, or alternatively something that they've got wrong. And that's what VAR was there for. It was a clear and obvious error is what VAR was brought in for. It wasn't brought in to pick up on every handball, to pick up on, because that happens, it will happen. So they even mentioned today, and I did see it, the guy who was sent off in the rugby for Ireland, Martin Johnson said it at halftime. 20 years ago, that wouldn't have even been picked up on. It's technology picks up on these things now, and that would have just gone unpunished 20 years ago. Wow. So football's evolving too, but not, as you say, Ginny, not for the better. The guy who was on that podcast I was referring to earlier about Stockley Park, they basically said that initially, and this is initially from memory, this was a 3-year project to get a lot of the oddities, a lot of the controversy. That's what he actually said. He said, it's 3 years. That's our first milestone. And then after that, we really shouldn't have the same amount of complaints. And Max Rushton, who was on, said 3 years? That seems an awful long time to give you any sort of, before you would be content and happy that everything's okay. And so, well, that's what's been agreed, and that's what we're working towards that. So maybe again that explains why, if you've already alluded to it there, why things are worse this season, because there are more things that are maybe being analysed, more things that are being looked at from a VAR perspective than maybe were at the start. There's probably more. There's probably things now that we haven't seen on a football pitch, we haven't thought of, that we'll go to the VAR check. And again, people say, like, you think about the Aston Villa Manchester City game. Do you remember when the guy scored the goal and everybody thought it was offside? And said, that rule's been in for whatever length of time it was, and nobody seemed to know it was there. And your man Peter Walton, here's another name. I know, Gerry, get him on as a guest some week for a laugh. You'd have an interesting 3/4 of an hour. But he changed. He sort of seems to always side. He goes, that'll be an offside, and then remember he was told, no, actually the rule is, and he goes, oh, sorry, yes, it actually should be a goal then. Like I would hate to see what that man's salary is, because if he's paid any money at all, it's too much. It really is. By BT, I'm sure he's on a salary. He has to be. He's not doing it for fun, for free. So therefore he is, and it's still an 11. Absolutely is there.
It's unbelievable.
Well, this is all. We've had a good VAR run, and it's all because of that stupid referee and that stupid Patrick Bamford goal where we get cheated. So fingers crossed, we're gonna right that wrong tomorrow night. Just before we go, then, just obviously we think we all seen bits of the match anyway earlier there. Man City beat Liverpool. Can anybody in the Premier League stop Man City? Go with you, JK, first.
No.
Ginny?
No.
Easy done then, not there. I agree with you.
Got a game in hand as well, haven't you, on a few teams? So.
Yeah, I think with a game in hand. I did look now. Their next.
Take it easy on us at the area. I don't know when they play us, but hopefully by that stage maybe have
April. We play in April. I think we've got City United in a
space of 3 weeks. That's right. Yeah. You're right. Yeah, actually, yeah. That sounds.
I think anybody's
right. 9 easy points there, JK.
For other teams, maybe. What were we going to say, Gerry? Sorry.
I know. I was just going to say that if anybody's going to catch them, I think their next 5 games they've got sort of 5 difficult enough games. I think there's like Everton, Arsenal, Chelsea, maybe, and Man United and West Ham possibly are their next 5. So if they've a hard enough wee run there, but they've a good cushion, and they looked pretty good today. Like it has to be said, the wee guy Phil Foden's serious talent. I know.
Today was a test. Pre half 4 today was a test. Despite the fact that Liverpool haven't been playing well, today was deemed to be, this is going to be a big test, and they breezed through it. They really did.
I think the commentary is that they've not won there, or they've won there twice in.
Yeah, it's not been a happy hunting ground.
It's like a proper bogey ground for City at Anfield.
Yeah, they'd mentioned that about that whenever Salah got the penalty, they said this is not a ground where they, even when it was 1 each, and they were sort of building it up. Tyler and Gary Neville were sort of building up almost, let's see what happens, and then sure, before you knew it, in a flash, it was 3-1. I would be friendly with a couple of brothers who support Manchester City, and they were mentioning today on social media that they were 13-5 betting wise today, Manchester City, and they were jumping on that. They said that's easy money as far as we're concerned. Now, a bit bravado, but at the same time, now hopefully they'll have a couple of beers to celebrate, because I think they must have a few pounds in their pockets as of this evening. Just to go back to one thing that you mentioned about the lineup tomorrow night, Gerry. The under-23s played today very well, I may add, and they were getting a lot of plaudits from media, as in Joe Urquhart's and Graham Smith's and people like that. But they were also getting a lot of Leeds fans. But Charlie Cresswell and Niall Huggins didn't play today. They weren't on at all. It was a very small bench, so that sort of seems to indicate that they'll be on the bench minimum. You never know. Maybe he thinks to himself, do we throw one of those two in just to see? Yeah,
it's interesting, isn't it? And yet the three players that seem to make the headlines when you listen to certainly Joe Urquhart and you watch the games is the lad from Wigan, Sam Greenwood, and the right back from Fulham. There seems a lot of hope that those three really could break into the team. But at the moment, it's like Cresswell, Casey, Huggins, and Jenkins. Yeah. And I think he scored 2 today, didn't he, Gulhart?
Yeah, he did, yeah. Did you see the goals? Did you see the goals?
Yeah, I watched them back on.
Well, one of them is not a million miles away from the Foden goal. One of them's very, very similar in terms of put into the top left-hand corner. But the lad Somerville as well, Ginny, is getting a lot of airtime and airspace. So I would say I would love to see a wee man Gallagher get a game. As in, what I mean by that is on the bench and bring him on, and not necessarily in a game that he'd have to come on and do something. It's more give him a game, give him a run out, because he is. I think he will make it. I think he will be a first team player, if not this season. I don't mean a regular. I mean a first team player, if not this season, definitely. I think at some stage next, and Greenwood as well. I think maybe he missed the penalty today. I think will break through as well. If they keep their heads down, get the attitude right, which is all what Bielsa expects. Those players that haven't made it, that some people think would or should have made it. I think it's down to what he sees on the training ground, more so than your average manager. He's very, very into what people put in shift wise. And those players you've mentioned, I think some of those will get a chance. Whenever we're at that magic safety net, whatever, we've talked about this over a few of these. We don't know what that's going to be, but we think it's going to be, if you take 40 as your average, then we're not a million miles away from there. Another 3 points tomorrow night, you're definitely not going to be that far away. So I would like to see a few of those getting a chance as and when it's appropriate. I don't mean bringing it in as desperation, which has happened with other teams. Sometimes they bring in youth and it works. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I think it would be nice to just break a few of them in this, before the season ends, and let them get a feel for what it's going to be like. Because you've mentioned crowds; they'll be back eventually, Ginny. And Ellen Road is not a forgiving place. It's a fantastic atmosphere when things are going well. It can be a forgiving to a point if they can see effort, but if players aren't putting the shift in, then we can be a horrible bunch. But so can be a lot of fans.
Yeah,
but we can be. Phil Hay, we're doing a lot of name dropping tonight. Phil Hay talks about toxic, and he says Ellen Road can be, and we know over the last 16 years at times it really has been, given what's been served up, whether it be managers, chairman, or players, or a combination of all three. We've had some horrendous times over the last 16 years. But as things are, we're all smiles, aren't we? It's a Sunday evening. What more could we have? Great company. We drink. It's all good.
It is. Just go back to Sam Greenwood. It was disappointing he couldn't start. When he came on against the Crawley game, and yet he had Jack up front. It'd just been nice to see him.
I agree. I agree. Just to see just put himself about a bit and get a bit of a feel, bit used to what if you're going to make that step up, what it's going to be like. Yeah, absolutely. Agree with you 100%.
And I think like today with Foden, it's cost City absolutely nothing, and he looks one. I mean, what's his price worth these days?
Nice.
So if we can get a couple more coming through, it'll be absolutely superb. And I think you're right. Maybe get part of the first team, just get that experience, maybe get the odd appearance as a sub, and then hopefully Bielsa, ties them into next season and has them part of that first team squad and believes that they can actually challenge for a starting place, which is what you want, isn't it? That's what we're looking for.
Absolutely.
Different options.
Yeah. Like City won 4-1 today again without a striker. Or recognised striker. Frightening.
Isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So before we wrap it up, then obviously Leeds have got their investment with the San Francisco 49ers. Super Bowl tonight. Is either of the two of you interested at all? No.
Sorry, it's not my cup of tea.
I know you have the day off work tomorrow, don't you, Gerry? Especially, so you can sit up and watch it tonight. I'm like Ginny, unfortunately, no. But I'll go for the team that have Chiefs in it, just because of Lucas and Kaiser Chiefs. So, well, there you go. That's my rationale.
Yeah. And the only one I know is Tom Brady, one of the most famous players of all time, still 42 or 43 or something. He's
43. I think he's got. This is his 10th Super Bowl tonight, but
wow.
He played for New England for his whole career and moved to Tampa Bay this year. And Tampa Bay hadn't been really good for a long time, and he's got one to the Super Bowl. So that's the caliber of the man. But this isn't an NFL or a Super Bowl.
Fortunately for Gerry and I, because it would have been a very short show.
That's it. Gerry, Gerry, are fans allowed in America? Are they still the same? No fans allowed?
No, they are. They are allowed in. Yeah, I think there's 30,000 maybe at the game tonight, and I think a lot of them are like emergency services and stuff. I think they've given the tickets to them, a lot of stuff like that. But right through the playoffs, there has been an amount of fans in, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's like obviously they're coping better with things, because I think the numbers show that they're not. But maybe the leadership they had was just kind of just putting it on and didn't really care as much. But there's fans in the game. I think it's 25 or 30,000 tonight at the game, and it's actually in the home stadium for the first time ever. One of the teams that's playing, it's in their home stadium, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So it's in there, but yeah, fans are in. But we'll be.
You'd mentioned you might do a show tomorrow night. Just depends how tired you are.
I was just going to say we won't tweet Gerry in the early morning, in the 7-8 o'clock tomorrow morning. He'll be getting his head down and catching up with
Absolutely.
That's it. I'm off work tomorrow, so I'm going to be sitting all day, twiddling my thumbs, and thinking about what formation is Bielsa going to play, who's going to start, how are we going to cope with this guy. To be honest with you, nearly once I get out of bed, I think I'd rather be on work and just come home and just be ready to watch the match rather than sit and think about it. But yeah, I probably will do a show. It'll probably not be a long one because I'll be back on work on Tuesday, and maybe just a wee sort of 20-minute, half an hour. But I'll see who wants to come on and stuff. But for now, anyway, I'll say thanks to JK and Ginny. I think we got a clean sweep there, did we? We got a 3-1 from Ginny, a 1-0, 2-1, 3-2 for JK. Yeah.
4-3.
Yeah, he's got splinters in the backside there, but I think I went for 1-0.
Still a win.
We'll see if we win. I don't care what way we win. And do you know what? See if we're sitting here tomorrow, seeing that VAR is brilliant because it completely screwed Crystal Palace. I'm alright with it.
Happy again. Fair enough.
But thanks very much, lads, for coming on, and
no
I've no doubt we'll be together again soon.
Enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. It was fantastic. It was good to get a good mix. We got our VAR rants and all done as well. So we did. I think we covered a lot of topics there. Aside from Leeds. Yeah. First class. Enjoy your Super Bowl tonight, Gerry. Don't be drinking too much now.
If I started drinking, I'd be sleeping before I started.
Well, don't fill up too much in Coke and candy then. Okay.
Thanks very much, lads. Okay.
All right. Have a good one, lads.
Cheers, JK. Cheers, Gerry. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Catch up soon.
Take care. Bye-bye now.